Hi, my name is EJ Massa. A couple years ago, I did a gimmick turkey cook where I cooked it using McDonald's Big Macs as the key ingredient. And it turned out better than I imagined. And that got me thinking. Big Macs aren't even my favorite chain restaurant item. That honor, of course, belongs to the Bloomin' Onion from the Outback Steakhouse. I love that big old ball of grease and its blend of spices, and that delicious horseradish sauce you can dip the petals into. I could eat the whole thing by myself, and I do eat them by myself. I only have 2 weeks to live. Well, if I'm making a turkey from one fast food item and it got tasty results, what if I make another turkey with my favorite restaurant item? And that's all it takes for me to decide to commit horrible atrocities. Longtime fan of the channel, Drunken Monk, who has sent me many dangerous devices over the years, he heard me talking about these plans to make a Bloomin' Onion turkey, and suddenly I got a mysterious package lovingly wrapped in Amazon gift wrapping, also known as a purple sack. There's also a note. The cost for Amazon to wrap this was almost as much as the item itself. From Drunken Monk. Money well spent, my friend. It's a fine sack. And inside was an onion blossom maker. And Drunken Monk is sending me a very important message with this cheap unitasker device. To cook with bloomin' onions, you must first understand the bloomin' onion. So I'll make one of my own using this device. So inside the box, you have the onion holder to help cutting and this wand to help remove the core after cooking. It's all made of plastic and it's quite small. In fact, it can barely hold a medium-sized sweet onion, which isn't ideal for a bloomin' onion. You need a giant fried onion the size of your head, which will fill your veins with a gallon of grease. Make sure to update your will before you eat it alone, and wash it down with a wall be darned. After chopping off the top of the onion, I had to peel off layers so it would actually fit in this tiny onion holder. I didn't want to peel off too many layers, so it fit snugly inside the holder. Then I used a kitchen knife to cut into the little slots to make the petals. And since I kept it a little too snug, I lost a few petals on the way out of the device. I put the onion into a bowl of ice water to help it blossom, really open up those petals. I left it in there for several hours. While that onion blossoms in the water, I'll make a tasty horseradish sauce using this cream-style horseradish. Into a bowl goes a cup of mayo, 1/4 cup of cream-style horseradish, 1 tablespoon of ketchup, a half teaspoon of paprika, a half teaspoon of salt, and a generous amount of fresh pepper on top of that. Mixed it all around, and then added a good dash of cayenne pepper to give the sauce a good kick. For the batter, I put a cup and a half of all-purpose flour into a bowl, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of paprika, and a half teaspoon of cayenne pepper, half teaspoon of black pepper, half teaspoon of garlic powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of cumin, finishing it off with a dash of thyme and a dash of oregano. Mix that all together, and I think that should be enough batter for 2 or 3 large bloomin' onions. Not the cue ball size I have here. For the wet part of the batter, I cracked an egg into a bowl with a cup of milk, and I whisked that all around. A few hours later, and my onion bloomed in that ice bath. I coated the onion with some cornstarch and made sure to get it into all the petals. I put it in the dry batter and sprinkled some over the top of the onion to cover it completely. Then dunked the onion into the egg mixture, making sure to get it on both sides, and then I dunked it back into the dry mixture. I poured about 1.5 quarts of peanut oil into the pot, got the temperature up to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and then dropped the onion face down into the pot. I fried that onion for about 8 minutes until it was a nice golden brown. Looks beautiful. If you gave me a dozen of these flowers for Valentine's Day, well, I'd give you a big smooch on the mouth. I dropped the onion onto a cooling rack to help the oil drain a bit. I also tested the core remover tool and that worked quite well. It's a bit of a petite bloomin' onion, so honestly, I wouldn't use that device. Just get good at making a blossom with a knife alone. One thing's for sure, it feels nice and crispy. So let's try out my homemade version of a bloomin' onion. Awesome. I would say the crust on the bloomin' onion is perfect. It adheres to the onion more than what you'd find at the actual Outback. Perfectly crispy, crunchy, tender onion. Wonderful. I think actually I'd probably add a little more salt. That's the only thing I would add. Maybe a little more cayenne too. Here's some of it with the sauce. The sauce is perfect. Wouldn't change anything about it. Then my wife came down and ate some, and she told me, and I quote, "That was a very respectable Bloomin' Onion." Clearly a success. But if you want to make it a bit more Outback authentic, maybe add another teaspoon of salt to the batter, and of course, don't use this tiny device. You'll make a tiny Bloomin' Onion for ants. Now for the main event. I ordered 3 Bloomin' Onions to hopefully turn a Thanksgiving feast upside down. Or should I say, down under. One question I had was what to do with the horseradish sauce. I didn't think it would go well as a gravy, but then Amy Sater from the Red Cow Discord suggested I make a mac and cheese with it. And what a genius suggestion. Very often, people will have a big bowl of home-style mac and cheese on their Thanksgiving dinner table, so I'll pair that with the turkey. First, I'm going to take one of the Bloomin' Onions and place the petals onto a metal rack, and this will go into a dehydrator with the purpose of drying out the onion so I can grind it into some sort of seasoned breadcrumb. So into the dehydrator that onion goes. I set the temperature to 150 degrees Fahrenheit, and that will dry for around 8 hours. After that time is up, the onion is sufficiently dry. I added those dry onion petals to a food processor, closed the lid, and pulsed it until it was a nice, fine breadcrumb. This will be used as an outer seasoning for the turkey. To season the inside, I put some turkey broth into a pot and added 1/4 of a Bloomin' Onion into the broth. And then I used an immersion blender to blend it up so it'll hopefully impart the essence of a Bloomin' Onion to the broth. I pour the broth into a jar, straining out some of the chunkiest parts. And yeah, it smells strongly of the essence of Outback. I bought a 12-pound turkey for this experiment, and I decided to butterfly it by removing the spine. I cut along both sides of the spine and did my best Sub-Zero impression.
Sub-Zero wins.
Then I sawed through the wishbone with a serrated knife and gave the 2 sides of the breast a good crack. And then I could lay that turkey down flat. This will help the turkey cook more evenly than if you left it a whole turkey roast. I'll save that spine and guts for some turkey broth that I'll make someday in the future. I filled the syringe with some onion broth and I injected it into the turkey's breast, the turkey's thighs, the turkey's butt, and then I injected it into my butt for good measure. I took a 1.5 sticks of butter, mixed it with the onion breadcrumbs that I just made to make sort of a compound butter. Then I smeared it all over the turkey. And you may be asking yourself, EJ Massa, isn't this incredibly stupid? Are you incredibly stupid?
Yes.
I then put the turkey into my grill at about 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I didn't want too much flavor from the smoke, so there's no added wood chunks or wood chips. It's just charcoal. While that is cooking, I'll make a mac and cheese. In a pan, I melted 2 tablespoons of butter. Once that's sizzling, I added a diced small onion. Sauteed that to brown it, and I added 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1/4 cup of flour, which I stirred around on the heat until it was well incorporated. Then I added 1 3/4 cups of milk, whisked that until it was just about to a boil, and I turned off the heat. Then I added 8 ounces of shredded sharp cheddar. I added it a little at a time to melt it, and then I stirred to incorporate it into the roux. After the cheese is melted and mixed, I added 2 of the horseradish sauce cups, which amounted to about a 1/2 cup of Bloomin' sauce. Stirred it around until it blended into a nice, striking orange sauce. I cooked some elbow macaroni according to the instructions on a box, and put it into a casserole dish, then poured the cheese sauce over it. And I mixed it all around, and now if you've ever seen box mac, you'll know we're not the biggest fan of breadcrumbs on mac, but I have these leftover Bloomin' breadcrumbs and I'd be an idiot not to spread some on top and try it out. And then I slid the casserole dish into a 375-degree oven, and after 30 minutes we have a bubbly, visually striking mac. Roughly 2 hours later, the internal temperature of the turkey breast is 165 degrees Fahrenheit, so I took the bird out and it smells and looks wonderful. Definitely has more of a smoky smell to it. And I cut into the bird for plating. Now, doesn't that spread of food make you want to say, "Good day, mate"? I'd like to throw a boomerang and capture this fine feast. That's not a knife. This is a knife. And this is a drumstick.
Let's try the mac and cheese. Wow. It's really good. So the Bloomin' Onion sauce it turns the creaminess up like to an unreal level. It's super creamy. The spices are not overpowering. It gives it a tang and a spice, and the little Bloomin' Onion breadcrumbs. It works well with the onion that's already in the mac, so it all blends together and really it serves up a real good punch. And it does have a little Bloomin' Onion taste, which is not unpleasant. It's subtle. It's a subtle Bloomin' Onion taste. This is awesome. So if you have a little leftover Bloomin' Onion sauce, you can put it in a baked mac and cheese like this, and it's gonna be fantastic. All right, we'll try a little bit of the breast. The skin's a little bit rubbery, which can happen with a smoker. The breast to me comes off as a just okay smoked turkey breast. I don't get any of the Bloomin' Onion flavors, and not even the skin. The skin just tastes kind of like the rubbery skin of a general smoked turkey. Nothing crazy. Let's try the leg. I get a little bit of the oniony taste and a little bit of the zesty, spicy flavor from the Bloomin' Onion on the skin. Overall, the taste doesn't really translate into the meat. It's a perfectly fine smoked turkey. But is Bloomin' Onion that good of a seasoning? Not really. Is the Bloomin' sauce awesome in a mac and cheese? Absolutely. And you put a little bit of the onion, dried onion as a breadcrumb on top. Oh, I would not recommend using a Bloomin' Onion to season a turkey. I would recommend using a Big Mac to season a turkey. What are you gonna do?
The mac and cheese alone made the whole experiment worth it. It frankly made my whole YouTubing career worth it. It made my life worth it. Yeah. What's next for me? You know, the McRib is on its farewell tour. Maybe I'll make a McRib turkey. Maybe McRib ribs. McRib prime rib. You know, I have to make more mutant food. Or I can make my own McRib. Let me know in the comments if you want me to make something with McRibs or my own McRib. Well, that's all for now. Until next time, bye.